Okay, so it's now Thursday. What are we talking about today? Well, there's a bunch of things to talk about today. First and foremost, I finished building the Necrons from Indomitus, and I have a number of comments on them, a number of thoughts. I mean, I love some of the models. I think these guys that go with the Cryptex, I think they're really cool. And I think narratively, it's cool that they're waking up new types of Necrons. I think that's a nice way of doing it. A whole untapped well of narrative things can just be woken up, which I really like. I think some of the models are really cool. I love these guys. And this guy. What I don't know how to do is how to include them in a game. I mean, I'm thinking way, way ahead here. But having listened to the Indomitus book, the rest of the Necrons consider these guys, these destroyers, to be basically afflicted by nothing less than a plague. I think it was a plague or a disease they refer to it as. And they only wake them up as a last resort. The royal warden had to ask the Lord for confirmation that he wanted them waking up, because it was such a dangerous thing to do. And they have layers and layers of defensive protocol to stop the destroyer contagion spreading from these guys into the rest of the dynasty. So I don't know how I would actually include these in an army. I think I would do something very destroyer-oriented. She's been in a mood with me because she had her annual trip to the vets yesterday, who said she was fat. Well, a little bit overweight, she said. But apart from that, you're looking healthy, aren't you? Doesn't explain why you're randomly vomiting all the time. Well, no, it does explain. You eat too quickly. That's why you randomly vomit all the time. She was sleeping soundly. She knows. She knows. She knows. Where was I? Yeah, so I imagine from a destroyer point of view that an actual army on the tabletop, I struggle to imagine the Overlord actually next to that guy in combat, because they want to stay. Thank you, Furzilla. They want to stay as far away from those guys as they possibly can. And it also makes me stop and think about these boxes. I mean, the Indomitus boxes are lovely boxes, and the models are gorgeous, but it's really difficult to make an army out of them. Even just with ignoring the narrative side of it, there's 4 HQ, that guy, that girl, that guy, and that guy. There's a couple of elites and 1 troop. Pretty tricky. Even now, when in 9th Ed you can take a patrol to as your whole army, you can still only have a couple of characters in it, even if you only need the 1 troop. And the Space Marines as well. It's 1 troop, 1 fast attack. Okay, thank you. Claiming the phone as yours. 1 fast attack. Can you decide where you're going so I know how to point the camera around you, please? Right, okay. And then, 4 or 5 elites, which I guess you could do Vanguard? It's not an Outrider. It's not a Spirit. It must be a Vanguard. So I struggle with the names of those 3 things. I've been around Winters too often. I've taken to calling them the one with the elite rather than actually learning the name. I digress. I love the warrior sculpts. And I love the variation in the weapons, the different types of weapons. And I really like the fact... Come on, focus. Come on, focus. You can do it. Come on, machine spirit. The Omnisire wants you to focus. You're not really focusing. Maybe with a fur background. Background of fur? Maybe if I move the warrior closer to the fur... No, okay. You can't really see it then. But there's a choice of heads, and some of the heads are beat up and knackered. And I love the narrative that, these guys practically soulless. There's very, very little intellect left in these bodies. They weren't. These were the mass-produced budget line of Necron robot bodies, which doesn't really allow for much of your brain or your soul to be transferred over. So these guys are pretty dim, pretty monotasked. In fact, they're almost the equivalent of Imperial servitors. And they get reanimated and repaired thousands and thousands of times. And I love the fact that there's battle damage on them. You know, some of the heads are a bit funky, some of them are missing jaws and so on. And there's a choice of heads. I really like that. That's really cool. My one complaint is that these models are a royal pain in the behind to put together. I mean, really, really very annoying. So, if you look at this guy, you have to put the arms on the blaster and then tuck the arms, oh, you'll focus now, won't you? Tuck the arms into the back. So if you see the join there, you've got a front half of the torso. The torso isn't one piece, it's a front half that the head is attached to, and a back half. And you put the arms in place in between the two, and then you have to put the front carapace. Why did you move, Lemmy? That was perfect. Then you have to put the front carapace on. But I don't know if you can see the problem. It's a push fit. Come on. It's a push fit model, and you have to push it with the gun in the way. You can't actually get the purchase to push it together and close it up. I snapped so many of the arms trying to squeeze these together. I ended up having to get needle nose pliers, and it's really tricky to actually hold it in place because it's got a sort of a slot and socket on the other side. On each side to push it into, and you've got to get quite a bit of force to actually get them together. A couple, I've put some marks in the model because of the grips on my pliers. Yeah, I've not been impressed with how little thought they've given to how you actually assemble these. You know, the practicalities of actually doing it. So that's my only complaint. I think the models are gorgeous. And it is, roughly speaking, 1,000 points, which I really like. It's just not in a particularly armyable way, which is a bit of a pain. But I've already been thinking, oh, right, okay, so notwithstanding a new Necron Codex coming out, what would I do with this? Well, I'd want a ton of warriors, because either way you have a ton of warriors. And then with the Lord, okay, I'd want his royal bodyguard, his Lich Guard. I'd want lots of immortals. Like, yeah, okay, that's a sort of dynastic, lots of Necron kind of thing. But then with the Destroyer Lord, I'd want lots of Destroyers, lots of the crawly ones, lots of the floaty ones, and then just a ton of warriors that get slaved to his systems. From what I remember reading, the different vehicles have different purposes. So the Night Side and the Doom Side, they're invasion vehicles. They tend to use those as the vanguard spilling in from the skies. So I think I am in danger of going full Necron when I try and get it. I do this with Eddie. I mean, you can see from the pile I've got here for the Night Lords that was in addition to what I originally bought, and the Fulminators and all that stuff. Yeah, I definitely go whole hog. What I have done is I've bought the spray for these guys, the Rune Lord Brass spray, and I'm going to follow the Dynasty, because there's quite a good how to paint guide on Warhammer TV, and it looks fairly straightforward, and I'm about straightforward, especially on painting any army. As long as it looks good from 2 feet away, I am sold on it. So these are nicely assembled. When that spray paint arrives, I'm going to undercoat them and then put them in a box or on a shelf. And then at the slightest whim, I can paint them, which is good. So what else? I've been doing scenery, which I'll talk about in a minute. There's some on my desk over there. I've got to have a proper look at those in a minute. This is an old not prototype, but it's a small piece of scenery on, what is this? Whatever it was rubbed off or it's the wrong way up. Old CDs make great bases for terrain when you need little bases for little things. I used lots of these back in the day. So this is basically painted grey with gold and then a bucket of Northern oil on top. And I've got over here these two because I want to do some more scenery because I haven't got much that falls into the 5-inch tall ruin category. So I need more. I've got these boxes under here. They're all full of half painted or old scenery that I need to do. There's a big box there. You can see there's a building just lying in it and so on. So these are coming next, I think. It's difficult because I don't tend to get that. When I finish a unit, I get a sort of hobby zen moment, that sort of injection of, and another thing off the list. Excellent. Something new I can use in a game. I have this thing where I don't like playing an army unless there's something new in it I've not used before. I don't know why that is. It just is. So I've got these to paint, and one of my dilemmas is that big one that you can see is on a grey base. That was initially intended to be part of a modular city fight board, but I've only got 2 or 3 that are that size. And the idea was that they'd be on a sort of concrete plinth, and I could just put little bits of gravel around them if I needed to. Whereas these other ones were done ages and ages and ages ago. And they were done in like a desert pattern. Because what I did was I went to B&Q and did some colour matching on some of the paints and got pots of paint made up so that I could paint all my boards and my scenery in the same sort of colour so they'd match. With some big volumes. So that's an old one, and I just need to spruce it up. But you'll see it's got a sort of, that base is covered in sand and paint, so it's going to be a sort of wildernessy rubble type one. I quite like the idea of, as you can see I've done there, juxtaposing those two together to make them into a big building. But I don't know. I'm wondering whether the city base, actually I need to abandon that idea and rough it up quite a bit, because I don't really have a modular city table. I sort of thought I'd do 1 foot square modules and make them interchangeable, and do 1 foot by 6 inch lengths of road to go in between them. Well, one day maybe, if and when I win the lottery, I might do something like that. But kind of battle mats have sort of superseded a lot of that, and the idea of a building having a base is just not so important now with gravel, because you can use. I ordered 3 new types of Aquarium Gravel off Amazon today. I want a palette of gravels for my games. I'm really getting into this idea of the scenery being a big thing. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying building the tables and doing the games. So I'm actually wondering whether I should abandon the bases and pry it off and just use it as a freestanding model and only ever use gravel to mark it all out. Don't know. I really don't know. It's choices. Anyway, I said I'd show you the other scenery I've been doing, so I'm going to pause the camera now and go over to that desk. Right, sat at the other desk now. And I've just moved my wet palette. I mean, look at the state of that mat. What do I do with the paint? I mean, I choose to believe that's all Lemmy. There are around here paw prints under here of all sorts that I eventually scratch off. That was mostly Lemmy's sister when she was with us. I would run through the palette and then track red paw prints all through the house. Oh dear. Right, so where are we? Yes. So I have a Warhammer Conquest subscription. It is still in progress because I didn't take it out right at the very beginning. It was a present from my BFF, which is wonderful. So there's loads of Death Guard and Primaris and all sorts of stuff. And there's also scenery. Oh, Oh, wind generator. So, given I was talking about wanting some more variety on my tables, I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I am going to build some of the scenery from Warhammer Conquest. So, that's what I've been doing. Yeah, quite pleased with some of this. So this is... What I've also been doing is I followed the painting guide from the mag. So I've got these Thermic plasma regulators. Quite pleased with these. I imagine there will be some instruction to do some dry brushing later on, because at the moment these are just Rakarth flesh with agrax on them. But, well, the light's not great here. I wonder if I can improve the light. Okay. So quite pleased with these. So I've got... Whoops. Lemmy, don't drink that. Oh, Jesus. So there's these, which I'm quite pleased with. There's this bad boy that generates the plasma. Whoop. Quite pleased with that. That's going to look pretty good. Certainly at arm's length. I mean, if you look close, it's quite sloppy, but arm's length, I'm pretty pleased with that. And then we have a tiny amount of plasma pipes. I mean, there really aren't very many of these at all. I think you get one sprue out of the box. But again, with the painting guide, really pretty quick and pretty pleased with them. I think these will connect up very nicely. I mean, look at that. That's going to make for some really good scenery. And these are going to be these are obstacles, of course, so they'll be giving that defensive position and the cover save, which is great. I thought, right, okay, so I want all this stuff, and I excitedly got on the GW website. I thought, all right, there's an incinerator, and there's this and there's that. I'm going to order all this. And, right, I need more pipes. I'm going to need lots and lots of pipes. They don't make them anymore. They discontinued them a few weeks ago. God damn it, my timing really sucks. So, because it was a few weeks ago, I've been looking around all the usual places. Been looking around Element, Firestorm. I even looked at Wayland Games, who I swore I would never, ever, 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 ever use again. They didn't have any. I found a set on eBay, which I lost a bidding war over tonight because the price went over 40 quid, and I thought that is ridiculous. So I'm really kind of annoyed that I really want to link all this stuff together, and I can't. But I also know what I'm like. I'd spend like 300 quid on scenery and it'd all sit there for a very long time. So I'm going to use what I've got. What I did find earlier this evening is there's a chap in France selling individual pipes for only a couple of euros each. The postage was quite a bit, but I've ordered a bunch of those. Hopefully they actually turn up and they are an existent thing rather than a non-existent thing. But if that pays off, I should end up with lots and lots and lots of pipes, lots of straight pipes. So actually, it might not be that bad. This was all going to be a doom and gloom section of the video earlier, but I just managed to find some individual buy it nows on eBay, which is super. Because I quite like the idea of these all being properly connected. I don't like the thought that, plasma generator, plonk, okay, it just sits there on its own. What does it do? Well, generates plasma? How does it do that then? Where does it send it? Where does it get the ingredients from? Ingredients? Components? Fuel? It all falls over a lot. But these can connect up as well. They're regulators, so presumably they need an input and an output to regulate. And yeah, I mean, look at that. All connects. Yeah, so I'm hoping all these pipes turn up. And if they do, I think we can have quite a nice... But it'll be a board that doesn't block a lot of line of sight, but if you get the lines of fire and the direction of fire will be really important. So I'm looking forward to that. The painting guide had this as blue. I imagine that's because blue is a colour that you actually had at the point that you acquire this in the collection. I'm not sure. A lot of the GW ones have these painted orange, and I think I prefer the orange. But, variety is the spice of life and all that jazz. So that's these. Then I think these Riser Pass and Ruins get given away free with everything. There's loads of these kicking about. And again, I followed the guide in the Conquest forum, just a bit of basic dry brushing and a little bit of highlighting, and I think these will look pretty good. I think on a table they'll make quite a good little ruin. Again, the height is a thing. I don't get. This is what led me to the I need more things that are more than 5 inches tall. Because as mentioned previously, I want to follow Ninth Ed rules as closely as I can. I don't want to have to say, oh, well, this blocks line of sight, even though it's below 5 inches in height. I want to stick as closely as I can to it, with only narrative-based changes. So yeah, I need more tall terrain. But this should give me a bit of variety, a bit of stuff I haven't had previously, which is good. Yeah, I'm starting to get really oriented on the tables I'm doing, and I'm really enjoying playing the games against myself. I think my feeling at the moment is, irrespective of when lockdown lifts, that's something that I am going to continue doing, because I like the whole thinking out loud, and that seems to be going down well with everyone. People seem to like hearing my thought process. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with doing that. It also means I don't have to, calendars aren't a thing, and I can do ongoing campaigns. Hang on. I'm going to have to close the box. Right, you can stare at some paint water for a moment whilst I close this box. There you go. Yeah, so I like the fact that it's in my direct control, which is nice. So I think I'm going to carry on doing that. Right, I'm back now. And I'm going to wander to the other table because I've got something else to tell you about, and it involves over there. But I'm not pointing the camera at the floor because the empty Coke cans are breeding. And yeah, no one wants to see that. Right, back over here. So, I have been thinking today, right, okay, so for YouTube, as much as I'm enjoying the Fulminators versus Night Lords, people might get a bit bored of it. It might get a bit samey. I thought that can't be, in lockdown, the only content I produce, because it won't have a very wide appeal. And I also have a lot of armies. I want to play a lot of armies. So I thought, right, what can I do with other armies as a bit of a one-off? Just like a pickup game to put in there. And I made a list of all my armies and ones at the various sizes, and thought, right, who would play who and who would play who, and so on. So my plan is to have sisters versus word bearers. The only problem I've got is my very good friend Pure Tide, we used to work in the same place, and we used to talk 40k every lunchtime. And he asked me what book I'd been reading, because he said, whatever book you're reading is what you paint. He said, you've got no attention span, and he's right. So I started reading this, oh yeah, that works this way, and I can use all the sisters I've got, and I don't really have to paint anything else. Oh, that's brilliant. Looked at my word bearers and started looking at the traits and things in here, and I'm like, okay, yep, I've got what I've got. Ooh, I could just do with painting one of those Greater Possessed. I could just do with that Master of Possession. I could just do with finishing that Mauler Fiend. I could just do with doing those other 5. I didn't summon you. I could just do with finishing those other 5 Warp Talons. I could just do with this. I could just do with that. So now my brain excitement is focused on this game, even though I want to get another couple of Fulminators games under my belt first, and it's inevitably going to distract me into painting something else when I really want to be concentrating on my Night Lords and my Fulminators. But yeah, so there should be something coming at some point soon. It actually works out quite well, actually, because my sisters are the Order of the Sacred Rose. She's got no respect, sitting on the nuns. Order of the Sacred Rose, and their priory, their parish, as it were, is in Imperium Nihilus, and they are constantly beset by chaos forces. So I thought what I could do is I could do a bit about a few sort of vaguely linked games about my sisters, with this particular priory being on a particular world, and then I could play any or other of my chaos armies against them. And also with it being an Imperium Nihilus, that's the Blood Angels territory. Dante is the Warden of Imperial Nihilus. I think it's Warden. He was made the something of Imperial Nihilus by Gilliman. I think it was Warden. Might have to check the book. That's the one drawback in audiobooks over paper books. In paper books, you can just flick through so you find the bit that you want and then look it up. In audiobooks, it's a lot harder to go back to and find the bit where so-and-so says such and such. And how you spell things as well. You don't get that from an audiobook. Anyway. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for doing that. But I should be excited for Fulminators and Night Lords still. And I am. But Word Bearers, Sisters of Battle. It's perfect as well because these are the Order of the Sacred Rose are the real purist ones. They don't just follow the Emperor. They genuinely believe they are vessels for his divine will. And so much of their stuff is anti-chaos and anti-demon stuff, which makes it perfect for a sort of holy versus holy crusade of absolute smiting righteous violence on both sides, with a horde of warrior nuns against a horde of demons and marines. But I find making a Word Bearers army really, really, really difficult at 1500 points, because there's so many things you've got to include from a narrative perspective. You've got to have you've got to have Marines. It's a Marine army. Not having Marines in a Marine army is a no, as far as I'm concerned. So I've got to have at least a unit or two of Marines. Well, Word Bearers use cultists and Chaos Spawn as chaff, as fodder. They've always got scores and scores of them. Got to have a big unit of cultists. Got to have Chaos Spawn. They also use the Neverborn as shock troops. Got to have demons. Okay, what else do they have? Well, they use lots of possessed troops. Okay. But my Word Bearers are from Forge World Galmech, which means they're a Demon Forge, which means I've got to have demon engines. And when you start adding all that up, to actually get a list that I am happy with, that I feel is representative and narratively balanced, it's really tricky at 1500 points. The very first game I had on YouTube against Winters was with my Word Bearers. And we started off sort of saying, oh, how big a game do you want to play? And he said, 1750. I said, well, 2000. And it kept going up and up and up and up at my request as I kept working out my list and not being able to squeeze it down. And they said, look, just bring the army you want to play and we'll do that. We ended up playing 4,000 points. My first game on YouTube was 4,000 points because I couldn't make it any smaller and it feel narratively appropriate. How crazy is that? So yeah, you see, I'm getting juiced for the Word Bearers again now. I've not played those since the Galmech incident, but I'm loving the idea of that. And I've got a Dreadnought to paint. I've got 4 Demon Engines to paint. I've got Warp Talons. I've got Grace of Possessed. I want to do some upgrades on my Possessed because they can now take icons, and they couldn't when I assemble them, so I need to get some icons on them. And I don't like the sort of little tiny icon on your back. I think that's I don't think that's fitting with the idea of carrying their icons loud and proud. So I want to actually get them sort of handheld banners type things. I also, because there's a stratagem in this wonderful book to make a character possessed, so give them the demon keyword and all that jazz. And I thought, right, I haven't got an exalted champion for my Word Bearer, so that is a brilliant opportunity to kit bash a model together, and from demon spares and mutation spares to do an exalted champion. So I'm just getting so keen on that. This is why I have so many armies, and they're all part finished because I get super keen on them and there's something else distracts me. Something else distracts me. So I don't know how that's going to end. I don't know if I'm just going to have a little bit of a break and do a couple of things for these, along with some scenery. Need to paint the scenery. Or whether I'm going to carry on full Night Lord and full Fulminator. Oh, the Necrons. No, the Necrons are going in a box. Out of sight, out of mind. Then I can do them at a whim. Yes. That is what we are going to do. But then it's when I film this. Because do I film parts 2 and 3 of Night Lords versus Fulminators Chapter 2? I think I should do those first. And I can now. I've painted that scenery that's in that box there. I'll have enough variety on the tables to make them look sufficiently different. But I also want to include another 20 Raptors and a dozen bikes and the Terminators and the Knight and the Predators and the Impulsor and more jumpy dudes and the Warsuit and the. You see the problem. You see the problem. Yep. And I've been talking now for about half an hour, which means it's probably about 9 o'clock. It's getting dark outside, which means I've probably used most of my hobby time for the evening, so I'm probably not going to sit and start painting those now. I might maybe build something. Oh, I don't know. Right, given I've just done about half an hour's worth of vlogging, this might be the end of this vlog, it might not. I guess you will find out if the video concludes now or if I then start talking again.